If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
Hello, my name is BM Fox and this is the guide for the Pan-Asain Doctrine. The Pan-Asain Doctrine is my favorite because you have both the high speed, the extra terrain bonuses that you can exploit, and also early game unit bonuses which enables you for early expansion, which gives you an economical boost early on, which gives you a great advantage. Let's jump into it with the game wiki. I'm gonna go to the wiki, then to the Warfare tab, Doctrines. Scroll down, here we are. Pan-Asain is all about surprise. You have an additional 20% move speed. This is great. You can move fast, surprise your enemy, but you also have an additional 30% view range. So you can see units faster, and this can help you to both organize your offense and defense. You can avoid units. You also get additional terrain bonuses of 25%. This is only in addition of the base terrain bonuses, meaning if you have a light tank that gets an additional terrain bonus in plains, you're gonna get an additional 25% bonus in the Pan-Asain Doctrine too. But not all units are gonna receive extra terrain bonuses. They only come on top of the already existing terrain bonus that your unit gets. So it's only additional, not for all troops. They also get a nerf, which is 10% hit points. This means that your unit is easier to be killed because the enemy needs to deal 10% less damage to kill your unit. Let's check out the Pan-Asain unit bonuses. In the infantry branch, their militia research is unlocked faster, and their infantry gets an additional 10% hit points, which cancels their penalty. They also get an additional 30% forest bonus, which is really good, which comes on top of the already additional 25% terrain bonus for Pan-Asain. For the rest, they don't have bonuses in the infantry branch. In the ordnance branch, their artillery deals 15% extra damage versus unarmored units. They are 10% cheaper and their research is unlocked sooner. This makes it a very good unit. For the rest, there are no bonuses in the ordnance branch except that they get the research penalty for SP anti-air. In the tank branch, their armored cars deal 20% more damage versus unarmored units, and their light tanks deals an additional 15% both against unarmored and light armored units. Their tanks, however, are pretty weak. They all get penalties, so don't bother making those. Even tank destroyers are not super, but those, however, you are going to need to protect yourself against Axis or Cometary doctrines. In the air branch, the interceptor from Pan-Asain is the best in the game. They get a 15% attack range. They deal 15% extra damage against all planes. Their research and upgrades are unlocked sooner. If you combine this with an additional line of sight and their speed, this makes it the fastest, the best interceptor in the game, and is perfect to counter all other doctrines which use air units. In the naval branch, the Pan-Asain Doctrine gets a bonus for their battleships. They deal 10% damage versus all units. This makes it an extremely good unit. However, the Axis battleship without bonuses is still better than the Pan-Asain one with its bonuses. The battleship deals 10% more damage versus all units, and they get a 10% increased hit points, but that just cancels their Doctrine penalty. In the secret branch, there are no bonuses for Pan-Asain Doctrine except the flying bomb, which is a very weak unit, so it's not even worth mentioning it. I never use it. You should make it. You should always go for rockets instead. For nuclear, there are penalties everywhere, so you unlock nuclear technology 4 days later than Allies Doctrine. Alright, so I'm playing with the nationalist China. It is day 18, so I've made a couple of very good stacks that I will show you. I have focused, like the Doctrine says, on early game units, which I have upgraded afterwards. I have anti-air, anti-tank, armored cars, artillery, infantry, and light tanks. What I also have done is I have made tank destroyers and I have upgraded them to level 2. Why? Because the Doctrine is an early game Doctrine. All these units are early game units. They are all unarmored or light armored, so they are very weak weak to heavy armored units. So in addition of your regular base troops that you get from your bonuses, you should always add the tank destroyers, because most players, they tend to use heavy armored units, and the last thing you want is to get rushed by a player who is using medium tanks and heavy tanks. For the same reason, I have invested a lot in Air Force. I have 19 level 3 interceptors and 15 level 4 interceptors. Interceptors are the racehorse of Pan-Asian Doctrine. They are the best interceptor in the game, and you really need those to protect yourself against the tactical bombers from the Allied Doctrine, but also against the attack bombers from the Axis Doctrine. In addition of tank destroyers, I have made a lot of attack bombers, because also these are great against the heavy armored class. This way I can counter the only weakness that Pan-Asian Doctrine has, which is heavy armored units. So I'm good on this front. I have enough interceptors to deal with whatever planes come to me. I also have made quite some naval bombers. I have 4 naval bombers level 4 and 4 naval bombers level 3. The Pan-Asian naval bombers are the best in the game. They deal a lot of damage. A level 4 naval bomber deals more damage than a battleship level 2. This is very good to know. So I have put my units here, my artillery stack. I have put it in the hills where they get additional terrain bonuses. Always try to exploit your additional terrain bonuses that you get. Same goes for Navy. Explode the bonuses that you get. In the case of the Pan-Asian Doctrine, it is the battleships. So I've made 10 of them. They are expensive, so they're only level 2. I've also made 10 cruisers to protect my battleships, as cruisers have a high anti-air value. And I also made a lot of destroyers in my navy. This way I can protect my capital ships against submarines. I also have air carriers so that I can use them to invade the Pacific with all the air force that I have. And finally, I also made a lot of subs. I've got 20 of them, both to protect my course, but also to ambush troops. I've got a stack here of 10 submarines that I've used to ambush all the Borneo and the Papua New Guinea's troops. So that's basically it for the units. High-level artillery are as fast as SP artillery, and with the additional movement speed, high-level artillery can be better than the SP artillery from the Allies Doctrine. Speaking of Allies Doctrine, let's go back to the wiki to see how other doctrines can counter you. So they have 15% more hit points. Pan-Asian has 10% hit points less. That's a difference of 25%. So Pan-Asian troops are easier to kill. Axis troops are more difficult to kill. But they also deal 15% extra damage. So there's one thing you don't want, and it's be locked in battle with Axis, because you are going to lose. So you're going to use your higher speed and your terrain bonuses to lure your enemy in the terrain, which gives you the best advantage. You're going to use your speed to avoid combat, and you're only gonna engage in combat when it suits you and when you have the terrain advantage and the numerical advantage. Allies, they can field the large armies and they can upgrade them cheaply, so they can have large high-level armies, but they have a movement speed reduction. There's a movement speed gap of 30%, and in addition, with your extra view range, it is pretty easy to beat an Allies player. Finally, the Comintern Doctrine. Their units, they're very cheap, so they can field large armies, but usually they're gonna be low level and they deal less damage. But again, with your additional terrain bonuses, view range and movement speed, you should be able to win against a Comintern player pretty easy. You just need to be careful that you don't enter a war of attrition, as their units are cheap and your units are just the standard base price. If you would lose the same amount of units against a Comintern player, you're gonna lose in the long term. When it comes to the specific units for Axis, to protect yourself against Axis players, like I said already, you really need to have those interceptors and you really need to have those tank destroyers. To protect yourself against allies, you really need to upgrade those artillery. You need to make sure that you have enough interceptors, which have been upgraded too, so you can counter those tactical bombers from the Allies Doctrine. When we talk about the Comintern Doctrine, you need both the tank destroyers, because the Comintern Doctrine has both good medium tanks and heavy tanks. But they also have early access to rocket artillery, and the rocket artillery, they get an additional bonus. Their SP rocket artillery gets a 10% damage bonus versus all units, but also an additional speed bonus. So these two here, also the regular rocket artillery, those are very dangerous units for Pan-Asain because you mainly have unarmored units, and these are the counters against unarmored units. So you really need to be careful when you're fighting against Comintern Doctrine for this. Make sure you have enough tactical bombers to counter these kinds of units, and then you should be good on that front. This was it. This is my favorite doctrine, so definitely give it a go, but you need to put in that online time. The more active you are, the more you can exploit both your speed, your view range, and your additional terrain bonuses.